There is a kind of loneliness that is harder to admit than almost any other. Not the loneliness of having lost someone, not the loneliness of being in a new place, not the loneliness that comes with a clear cause and a visible path back to connection, but the loneliness of looking at your life honestly and realizing that there is no one in it you would call a genuine friend, no one who knows the real version of you and chooses to stay anyway, no one whose number you would dial at 2 in the morning if something truly fell apart. And if you have ever sat with that realization, you already know that it carries a specific weight that is different from ordinary sadness. A weight compounded by the shame of believing that friendlessness is a verdict on your worth rather than a condition with specific, understandable, entirely non-shameful psychological causes that this video is going to explain completely, because the research on adult friendlessness is one of the most important and most consistently misrepresented bodies of knowledge in social psychology. And what it reveals is not that some people are fundamentally unlovable or socially defective, but that specific, identifiable, completely comprehensible, psychological and circumstantial patterns produce the outcome of social isolation in people who are often among the most thoughtful, most genuine, and most capable of deep connection that any social environment contains. Let's begin with the most important contextual fact about adult friendlessness, and that is that it is far more common than the social performance of modern life makes it appear, which is itself a significant source of the shame that surrounds it. Research by sociologist Miller McPherson and colleagues found that the average American reported having no one with whom they discuss important matters in a proportion that has grown dramatically over recent decades, and subsequent research across multiple countries consistently shows that deep, genuine, reciprocal friendship, the kind that involves mutual vulnerability, consistent investment, and the specific intimacy of being truly known, is one of the rarest social achievements of adult life, not one of its natural defaults. The social media environment, which displays everyone's highlight reel of apparent social abundance, creates the specific and particularly damaging illusion that everyone else has effortlessly maintained the rich social world that most adults are quietly, privately struggling to build or keep, which means the person who has no friends is not failing at something that everyone else is succeeding at. They are experiencing, perhaps more honestly than most, the genuine difficulty of a social achievement that is far less universal than the cultural performance of modern life suggests. Now, let's examine the specific psychological patterns that most reliably produce adult friendlessness, because there are several distinct pathways to the same outcome, and understanding which one applies to your situation is the prerequisite for addressing it effectively. The first and most common is what psychologists call the proximity and repetition deficit, the absence of the specific environmental conditions that friendship formation research consistently identifies as essential, which are repeated, unplanned, low-stakes interactions with the same people over time, the kind that historically occurred naturally through school, neighborhood, and shared institutional life, but that adult independence systematically eliminates. Psychologist Jeffrey Hall's research on friendship formation found that it takes approximately 50 hours of interaction to move from acquaintance to casual friend, and approximately 200 hours to develop a close friendship, which means friendship is not a product of chemistry or compatibility alone, but of time investment at a scale that modern adult life, with its geographic mobility, remote work, and optimized for efficiency social scheduling, makes genuinely structurally difficult to achieve, regardless of how socially capable or genuinely likable the person trying to achieve it actually is. The second pathway is the vulnerability paradox. The specific psychological dynamic in which the people most capable of deep friendship are the ones most psychologically armored against the specific risk that deep friendship requires, which is the risk of being genuinely known and genuinely rejected. A risk that feels manageable in theory and neurologically catastrophic in practice for anyone who has experienced significant early attachment wounds, social rejection, or the specific kind of conditional acceptance that teaches a child that being fully themselves is socially dangerous. These people are often the most perceptive, the most emotionally intelligent, the most genuinely interesting people in any social environment, and they are also the people most likely to present a carefully managed version of themselves in social interactions, to keep conversations at a depth that feels safe but never reaches the genuine intimacy that real friendship requires, to find the moment when a connection is about to become real and unconsciously introduce a distance that protects them from the risk they can feel approaching, and then to experience the resulting shallowness of their social world as evidence of their fundamental unlovability, rather than as the logical outcome of a protection strategy that is working exactly as intended. The third pathway, and the one that is least discussed because it challenges the most comfortable cultural narratives about friendship, is the genuine compatibility scarcity that high individuality produces. The simple, non-pathological reality that people with unusual minds, unusual values, or unusual ways of engaging with the world find fewer natural matches in any given social environment, not because they are superior to the people around them, but because genuine deep friendship requires a specific kind of resonance that becomes statistically rarer as the relevant dimensions of individuality become more specific, and the person who experiences the world in a genuinely unusual way will encounter that resonance less frequently, will go longer between genuine connections, and will experience the intervals as loneliness when they are actually the unavoidable arithmetic of a more specific social need. And here is the truth that this entire video has been building toward, the one that matters most for anyone who recognizes themselves in what we have discussed. Not having friends is not a permanent condition, and it is not a verdict on your worth, but it is a signal. A signal that something in the combination of your environment, your protective patterns, or your approach to social investment deserves honest examination and deliberate change. Not because there is something wrong with you, but because the connection you are capable of and the connection you are currently experiencing are not the same thing, and the gap between them is not closed by waiting for the right people to find you. It is closed by the specific, vulnerable, structurally demanding, emotionally risky work of showing up in the environments where repeated contact is possible, of allowing yourself to be more genuinely known than your protection instincts are comfortable with, and of investing the 200 hours that genuine friendship requires with the faith that the investment for the right person will produce exactly the return that makes every hour of it worth it. Subscribe for more mind secrets.